welcome to another episode of Communication Corner. Thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'm, of course, your host, Gail Lewis. So over the years here on Communication Corner, we've highlighted so many different variations of communication. How we communicate, interpersonal communication, business communication, you name it. And tonight, we'd like to highlight another type of communication, electronic communication, which is something that most of us do every day. Think about how many times a day you check your email or you Google something. It's all electronic. And the way that we communicate electronically most of the time is via the internet. Now, the internet can seem like a place where there's just so many things, it can seem a little bit overwhelming. So one of the ways to make the internet a little less overwhelming is to go to places that cull information for us. And if you're looking for information about the Caribbean, one of the better places to visit online is GrenadianConnection.com. So I'm really excited tonight to have the founder and president of GrenadianConnection.com joining me this evening here on Communication Corner. Good evening, Neil.
Good evening, Gail.
Neil Cummings, founder, president, GrenadianConnection.com.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what exactly do you guys do?
Well, Grenadian Connection is a Caribbean website that deals with a lot of content from Grenada and the Caribbean. When we talk about content, we're talking about things that are most relevant to the people. For example, we have a lot of photos, we have a lot of videos, we have a lot of news, we have things like real estate, obituaries, you know, things that really make up the community on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm. So your spotlight is on Grenada, but of course you include the entire Caribbean as well.
Absolutely.
And what part of Grenada are you from? I'm sure people are wondering already.
Yes, I'm from the northeast part of Grenada, St. Andrews.
St. Andrews?
Parish of St. Andrews,
yes. Well, shout out to St. Andrews.
Actually, Conference St. Andrews.
Oh, okay. See, it always comes out when you ask a few more questions.
Absolutely.
So when you came to the United States, you were starting to look into communication, obviously, and a way of disseminating information. So prior to starting GrenadaConnection.com, what did you do?
Well, the whole thing is that communication was the last thing on my list.
Okay. So what was the first?
The first thing on my list was technology from an engineering point of view.
Had you studied engineering?
Yes. I did some work in Lake Michigan College, where I started doing the precursors of engineering, such as drafting and design and so on. And I was very, very good at it. And, you know, I always had a unique way of seeing things and envisioning things internally. So that was kind of my main strength and forte from day one. And I just kind of grew on it. But I had a few unique opportunities when I went to Lake Michigan College. I always had a feeling in my life that one of the things that I wanted to complete was things like electronics and programming and stuff like that. And while I was taking the drafting and designing classes, I had a few opportunities to literally do some electronics and do some programming as well.
Computer programming.
Computer programming. Not really knowing what the future held for me and how those three things combined to help you to build a really good product when it comes to web development and community things eventually. But somehow, you know, I'll tell you a little bit more about that part of the future as we go along. Okay,
well, go ahead. How did you get from there, from college in Michigan, to where you are now? What brought you to GrenadianConnections.com?
All right. It was one night. I went to a friend's house.
It always starts in one night at a friend's house, but keep going.
Okay, it really does. It really does. You know, out there in Brooklyn, someplace, after coming back from Michigan, you know, I kept to myself a little bit, you know, while I started to find my way back in Brooklyn or back into the community and so on. But it was just that one night, February 2002.
Okay.
And I was invited to a party, a friend's birthday party, and a daughter was celebrating a birthday party as well. And I reconnected with a lot of my friends.
From Grenada?
From Grenada.
From back home?
Yes, who I went to, as we call it, primary school and secondary school, you know, with. And it was really, really a great night. And I thought to myself, what's Grenada doing for websites?
Right.
And
you came up with the answer, not much?
Well, You're absolutely right. The answer really was not much. And actually, I didn't really even consider if it was much or not much. But the vision was born right there. I realized that we could develop some sort of website whereby we communicate things like events in the community. You know, and events was the original mission. That's what we wanted to communicate at first. But it branched off into a lot more things because a lot more things are needed to sustain a community and website. Community type website.
Including?
Well, I would say things like probably news and obituaries and, you know, photographs and, you know, and so on.
So you started with just a rudimentary, I would assume, website, and you've grown into what you are today. Am I right? Or did you start with something with a lot of bells and whistles?
Well, we started with a pretty good foundation. We had a few photos. We had a few event places, you know, where
and
people
those were events both in Brooklyn and in the Grenadian community and Caribbean community at large?
Well, the way we did it, yes, people could literally post an event. And they started out posting events for free on the site. So wherever you are, in some place in Grenada or in the diaspora, people could have posted their events for free on the site.
Awesome. And so then how did it grow?
Well, I guess one person started finding it a bit more interesting, and another person started find out that it was more and more interested, and just like that, they started communicating it amongst themselves. I guess it's a similar phenomenon to what probably the Facebook people experience and so on.
Right. I was thinking the same thing, that idea was kind of born, and then it just kind of took off from there as more people caught on. I guess the same thing happened with Grenadian Connection.
Really, yes, that's exactly what happened. And, you know, it also starts out with you, like myself, originally being like more from the engineering type or the creative type, who would really focus on just creating a website. But then after years of evolution, years into the business, you realize that, well, there's another side to it. There is a marketing concept and there is a business concept to it, because you need that for sustenance. And, you know, you have to think of how to add value to people's life.
Right.
The people that you're serving, how to add values to their lives before any value could be added to yours.
Right.
So eventually I caught on.
You caught on, and you caught on big, it seems like.
Well, it's getting bigger, you know, every day, and, you know, it gets to the point where you really have to believe in what you're doing.
Right.
Because belief is a very important fundamental, you know.
So if I were to go there right now, GrenadianConnection.com, I could post job listings?
You can post a job listing, and we try to make it as, we try to move away from the phase whereby everything was done in-house by me or my associates. We try to do it in such a way that everything is self-managed now.
So it's self-managed. So I would go to the site and I would register?
Yes, you could register, and you could register for a master account, meaning when I say a master account, it's what gets you inside. And once you get inside, you could have multiple sub-accounts to perform or add information to the kind of services that is of interest to you. For example, events. If you like, produce carnival costumes, you could add your costumes for sale. You could add your DVDs, or you could add your music and stuff like that. So it's becoming a real strong social environment.
And we also see that there are lots of pictures on the site.
Yes.
Speaking of social, where are those pictures taken? They seem like everyone just seems to be having a lot of fun.
Well, the pictures are taken all over literally. Like I said, Grenada is the source of all Grenadians, but there's probably 2 or 3 times more people and descendants of Grenadians outside of Grenada than in Grenada itself. So, you know, wherever we have strong Caribbean metro cities around the world, you know, for example, New York, Florida, Toronto, London, et cetera, et cetera. You know, we do get pictures from these sources as well.
That's quite a berth. That's quite a large net that you've cast.
Well, yes, it's quite a wonderful thing.
So what else do we find on the site? Photos, videos, and you're a videographer as well, and a photographer.
Yes, I do both, but I prefer the photography because to me the photography is a much bigger and deeper challenge.
Why so?
Well, I do both, first of all.
Right.
And I do both quite excellently.
And you're so modest. I love it.
Yes. Okay.
So you do both, but you prefer still shots, I would say, over video, and why?
Well, there's a certain, I think that the still shot is an instance where everything has to be calibrated properly. Video is continuous, so you could always make the necessary adjustments that you need and get and build a product that you want also. I mean, of course, editing and so on, you know, it takes a lot of creative genius to make any product that's appealing to, you know, viewers or consumers today. But with the photography, it's just, it's a lot more things that has to be calibrated into every click of that camera to get real good, exciting pictures of what event that you're capturing.
Right, so capturing just that moment in time, that second, versus telling a story with, you know, 30 minutes of film.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit different. It's a lot more challenging, and it's also a rare air where you find somebody that can really make pictures that becomes a conversation piece or resonates with you forever. It's a very different kind of thing.
How long have you been taking pictures?
Right now, it's been close to 15 years.
Wow.
Even though I had training prior to GrenadianConnection.com, but my real experiences started with GrenadianConnection.com. And because I've had so many opportunities to graduate from one level to another, to another, to another, to another, I would say that, you know, I've kind of mastered a lot of it.
Great. And do you prefer black and white, color? No preference with your still photography?
Well, everything has a place and a time. And there's times when black and white could definitely give you a special effect.
Like when? Anything stick out in your mind?
I don't want to say it on camera. But when you're messed up with a color photo, how's that? You revert to black and white.
Okay.
That's one of the places, right? Or when you have a little blur on a color photo that isn't appropriate, you could switch it to black and white, and somehow it sort of melts it out in a real nice way.
Okay.
But I would say that color and, you know, and depth separation is probably some of the things that are really important considerations, you know, and you know, timing is also an important consideration for photography. And of course, you know, making people look beautiful.
Of course.
Knowing the shapes and the angles of the human body that tends to make them look most beautiful.
Great. And in addition to the photography aspect of the website, GrenadianConnection.com, there's also a website building connection. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? The technology, I guess, behind the website building?
Well, yeah, we do build websites as well, and it came from many years of analyzing people's needs, you know, for web communications. And it's not just that, but a lot of people get what I call the first fifth. When they desire to build a website, or when they desire to represent themselves on the web, most people think that a website is the end of the journey, but it's the first fifth. That's what I call it. You know, there is 4 more fifths that is actually needed if you're going to have any measure of success at all.
Let's go through the 5 steps first, really quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so website, then?
Well, I think you need people. You know, you need an audience, a target audience that is receptive or interested in what you're offering.
Okay, 3?
I would say that you need fuel for it, which is money to drive and market.
Capital. Number 4?
Content. New content, probably.
Okay, exciting new content, lots of pictures.
That is appealing to your audience.
Right. And lastly?
Lastly, great customer service.
Okay.
And I say it with a smile.
Yeah, great customer service.
All right. Okay.
But let's go back to number 1. You were talking about a website. If we were looking for someone to build a website, if we're going to build a website ourselves, because you can do that, it seems like, even if you don't have a lot of technical expertise, what should we be looking for in someone who's going to build a website for us, or if we're going to build it ourselves?
Well, you have to take into consideration, we call it, you know, the person who will host or who will build a website, like you said, number one, I think that a person must have a good track record to show you several sites that they have built.
So a history. So someone who can say, look at these other sites that I've built, and you can look at them and they look presentable.
I think that the other thing that most people get hung up on is beauty without real value sometimes. A lot of people get hung up on making an extremely beautiful website, but they don't realize that there's things that has to sustain that beauty. And I think
so content that has to
how content sustains beauty, or how content actually comes before beauty sometimes when it comes to a website.
So it's not just all bells and whistles.
No, it's not all just bells and whistles. It's a value that has to be added to it to match or match or click with the audience that you have.
How does your technology differ? Your website building.
Well, number one, it's probably faster concepts. It's more precise, and a lot of times.
More precise how? In its messaging, or in its content, or in its design?
More precise in its messaging and probably in its content, meaning that for every type of service that somebody offers, there is a certain set of values that has to be passed on or transmitted to the viewer or consumer. And basically is how do you find those things? How do you itemize them from main category to a subcategory? You know, so I would say even navigation is a very, very important part of the whole thing. You know, do people find what they expect to find?
Right. Okay. So do I have to search for what I'm looking for? Or is it easy navigation? I went to a site the other day. I won't mention the site name, but in the navigation there was 25 things to choose from in the navigation, and then each one had at least 10 drop downs. It was dizzying, all of that content. It just wasn't organized very well. Is that something that you would do differently?
Well, definitely. For everything, there is a main umbrella and there is sub-umbrellas under the main umbrellas. And that is really important in identifying this kind of situations. In the beginning, when I started GrenadianConnection.com, I didn't know all these things. Well, guess what? Even though I had a sort of internal guidance that this should fall under this should fall under this, I wasn't fully aware of the process. So maybe even though my audience have come to figure out, sometimes even amongst the parts that are not totally organized, well, this is where it's located, so hey, I'm just going there. But if I had to do things over again, which is a big question that most entrepreneurs have, right? There's a lot of things that you've learned along the way that if you had to recreate it, you would really simplify the process and make it a lot more, human friendly.
Right. Yeah. Look at it from the point of view of the user instead of the point of view of the webmaster, I guess. Would you say?
Well,
no.
In a certain way, but I would still look at it from the point of view of the product. All right, and if the product has the right point of view, it transmits to the viewer, and then it transmits back to the owner.
Okay.
Okay.
Are there things, if we are thinking about doing our own website, are there things that should always be on that front page, on that first page?
Definitely, the thing that matters the most. This is how I would sum it up. Okay, you have a business, you have certain kind of experiences. Okay, what are the most important things that people come to you, or they have questions about, whenever they come to your customer service desk, or whenever they talk to you as a business owner? All right. What are the things that also bring you an income? Right. Those are all things that have to be taken into serious consideration, and you shouldn't fool around with their navigation and their purpose and their upfrontness. They have to be very upfront.
And also, there's parts of your website where we can advertise if we're having parties and or events, scholarly events, whatever it is. We can put that on your website as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the bottom line is that we have community, and we serve a community, and we serve an active community. And because of those things, then you know, we find it necessary to give people the opportunity to get the information before our audience, you know, at a different cost. You know, we have basic costs and we have premium cost.
And there's also real estate listings and classified ads as well?
Yes.
So if I just registered, I could just post a classified ad?
Absolutely. Because it's community.
Great.
It's community, and that's part of the things that people desire in a community.
What's the best part of that you found having GrenadianConnection.com? What's the best thing about it?
That's a good one. Well, the best.
You've been doing it now for 11 years.
The best thing is really understanding how values are transmitted. Probably one of the best things, how values are transmitted, and you know, people desire real values, and you know, they're not going to take. They just desire real values. They want real results. They want, you know, they want real things. That's just it. So whatever it is that you're producing, it has to have a measure of realness with it. You know, depending on the space and the time that we're living in, you got to have a measure of realness to communicate with the population that you're dealing with.
Okay. Now, if I was having a party,
are you?
And, well, you never know.
All right.
There's always a party going on. But if I were having a party, and would I take pictures and send them to you, or could I call you and ask you to come and take pictures and then put them on your site, or both?
Now that's a good one. You can do both, but photography is one of the services that we offer. And if you really want your photos to be a lasting memory,
right?
If you want your photos to be a conversation piece, and if you want you know, your friends or your family maybe to see the joy you've had at the age of 30, when you just turned 30,
right?
Then I would say give us a call, and we'll definitely make those, you know, lasting impressions for you.
Great. And if we took pictures at our own party, we could send them to you as well?
Well, yes, you can, but we're also working on a part where you can log into your account and post your own pictures yourself.
Oh, wow. Is that up right now? Is that live, or that's coming soon?
Within the next year, these features should be live and running on the site.
So it's kind of its own Grenadian Facebook?
Well, Grenadian, yes, absolutely.
Or
absolutely.
Grenadian and the Diaspora Facebook.
Grenadian is people, you know.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, everybody has a different direction or a different path. But, you know, it's the Grenadian community.
What else is next for GrenadianConnection.com?
Well, we're working on a few things, on basically things that engages the people. In other words, we provide the technology, or we provide the basis, and the people supply their own information. The people, you know, fulfill their own visions, their own dreams, and, you know, get their own little pages, and, you know, post their own events, and have have the events posted in multiple areas simultaneously. So that's the kind of stuff that we're working on. It seems as though that's what the future is about.
So the website is GrenadianConnection.com. And where can people get in touch with you, Neil? How can they get in touch with you?
Well, there are several ways they can get in touch with me. On the website, you could always click the Contact Us button. And I usually get the mail from that if you send an email. Or you'll also find a telephone number on there.
You can give us the phone number.
The telephone number is 718-649-6009.
Okay, one more time.
718-649-6009.
Great. And people can email you as well directly?
Yes, they can.
And what's that email address?
GrenadianConnection@yahoo.com.
Oh, easy enough to remember. GrenadianConnection@yahoo.com. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So any closing thoughts, Neil?
Well, I would just like to say, when it comes to getting on the web always says to everybody, you can come in, everybody, come in, I have a space for you. But you always have to know the reason why you're there and what you want the web to deliver to you. And having the web deliver something to you is not easy, because there's a lot of people competing for the same thing that you're offering or that you're competing for. So I would say you have to really, really check with people who had some measure of success and who knows the journey, because the journey is not visible. The delivery or the result that you're looking for, it is not visible. It is not what you think it is. It's always something that's way buried deep down that you cannot see on the surface.
Okay.
So you need to get expert advice. Just like if you're going to have a serious surgery, you get, an opinion from the best doctor or the best surgeon.
Right, and get a second opinion. You
Absolutely.
go to a surgeon.
Absolutely.
Not just an acupuncturist.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless you're willing to do it over again.
Okay. And with something like your website design or advertising in the Caribbean community, it's not the sort of thing you want to do and then do again. You want to do it right the first time?
Well, you want to do it right the first time. You want to avoid making mistakes because time is money, and there's a good chance that that you would need some help along the way or some expert advice. And take it if you think somebody is really knows what they're talking about.
And after 11 years of GrenadianConnection.com, seems like you know what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So video, photography, advertising, web development, posting classified ads, job listings, you name it, you run the gamut.
Well, I do my best.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to share before we wrap?
Well, it's been a real pleasure having me on the set today, and basically talk about my business, and it feels real good to be here.
All right.
Thank you very much.
www.GrenadianConnection.com. Neil Cummings, President/Founder. You can find him at www.GrenadianConnection.com. You can also email him, GrenadianConnection@yahoo.com. And as always, you can email me, your host, Gail Lewis, newday2010@yahoo.com, NEWDAY2010@yahoo.com. Thanks so much for joining me and Neil Cummings of GrenadianConnection.com here on Communication Corner. And I hope to see you again real soon. Thank you, guys.